Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhatam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagan Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Viveka Chudamani we are describing the qualifications of an aspirant, what is known as Viveka Chatushtaya, also Adhikar Chatushtaya. Four things: Viveka, discriminative intellect, intellect that has become so subtle, sharp, that separates real from the unreal. Your awareness of yourself, who am I? That awareness flows, as it were, through the plane of your intellect. If intellect is clear, that awareness will be, I am all that is, I am Brahman. But intellect has a tumor, ego tumor, needs ego-dictomy. So, as that awareness comes down from the ego, from the intellect level, it steps into your mental level, mixes up with desires, karmas, and gets involved with senses. If you have the discrimination, then you are correcting the error from the very root. You see, allowing the intellect to become purified. The next aspect of that process is vairagya. Due to the error of the intellect, your awareness of yourself becomes refracted. And so awareness of yourself means awareness of the absolute self. Who else is there except the absolute self? That awareness has become refracted into countless things. A renunciation is to, vairagya is to develop that keen understanding. I have nothing to do with all the refractions. I'm enough for myself. The sun is enough. He doesn't have to chase all those reflected suns, or doesn't have to go out after rainbows. And that's a matter of understanding. Rainbows, let there be. Reflections, let there be countless. So realization has no difficulty or contradiction with the multiplicity of things. The multiplicity of things are in the plane of senses and conditioned mind. If someone has a special glass and sees things in a special way and describes them, One who doesn't have it doesn't have to fight about it. That you are seeing so many things and I'm not. But and you don't have to assert greatness about it. In other words, things that delight the masses. The whole world has so many promises, but that's in the realm of raga, attachment, a realm of illusion. You are not going to gain anything from this world because you are already the sun. You don't have to go after reflected suns and collect reflected lights, put them in a big bundle and take it to the solar region. Ocean doesn't have to go after rivers to invite them, to collect them, to plead before them. I will come empty if you didn't come. The sky doesn't have to be affected by clouds. All that can give you some idea of what I'm talking about. Viveka and Vairagya. Now we come to Shat Sampat, sixfold qualities. Sampat literally means wealth. Real wealth for the soul consists in developing these qualities. In general, all virtuous qualities, they become your real wealth because you carry that wealth after death. But all other possessions and wealth, the moment you want to pass from this plane, the very gate of the subtle world, your ID is checked. Nothing, you are not allowed to take anything at all. All your possessions, all your attainments are left behind. All your even memories of so many things. Wonderful books you might have written about your life, but leave it for others. But qualities that you have developed, even if you are not liberated, you carry them from one life to another, and you become more enriched. And you have the possibility of attaining enlightenment. But if you have developed profounder qualities, then you don't have to carry them. Liberation cannot be attained by dying. Liberation is attained by living. It's a big difference between attaining heavenly experience. For that there is requirement, you have to die. For liberation, that's an obstacle, die. You have to live and experience the enlightenment. The subtle point people don't think of. You remember the story of how so many people were coming to the temple early in the morning and offering their prayers. And a priest had come from another village who wanted to sleep. But each time, the best time of his for to sleep, and he finds people shouting their prayers. So he thought of himself. He was a little clever man coming from a town. So He placed himself behind the statue, well hidden. And when they started saying, "Oh God, take me to heaven, take me to heaven," and each one shouting more and more, louder and louder. And he created an ethereal voice with a deep voice making some resonance about it. Said, "Good news, good news." Heaven's gates are open. All of you are going to be sucked into heaven. Even your bodies won't be seen. It's a very special occasion that never happens. Going into heaven with all the body and everything. When that voice came, people shivered. Each one looked at the other. And one by one they went away fast, saying, "I have to do this, I have to do that. I have to send my child to the school, I have to cook for something," somebody saying something else. And so they all went away. Of course the man had good sleep. The story is not told to promote sleep. The story is told to understand that going to heaven is not so palatable. People may go on asking, "Oh God, send me to heaven." But deep down there is a terror. Suddenly comes a news from the heaven. It's time, right now. Slip into this magic basket, you are going to heaven. But that doesn't exist in the project of self-realization. There is nowhere there is a slightest tremor. But since you are going to attain enlightenment, you have to let go this body, you have to let go this earth. You don't have to let go anything. You have to simply understand you are nothing of this. The sky doesn't have to let go clouds and let go this or that. It is ever beyond the clouds. Desert doesn't have to let go mirage. Rope doesn't have to let go the snake. And I will not go on with that. Shat Sampat, the first of those 6 treasures, is Shama. Shama is to possess healthy intellect. Intellect that has constant ability to have a vertical vision, that is to say, an aerial vision. The ability to step back from the world. Anyone who wants to take good picture, watch his steps. Steps go backward. You want to understand the world, your situation, your whole purpose of your existence. You need to step back. You should not start in a biased way. The moment you start with ego mixed or ego blended mind, then you are starting in a wrong way. You have already started with the idea, I am a particular person, roots are somewhere, and each one has a whole family line, somewhere it roots up to something. You may have come from Alaska, may have come from Africa, may have come from this or that. You have already started from a very wrong basis. That means intellect has been shut down. But if intellect clears up, then there is a sniff of the reality, the eternal you. Vivek begins to develop. And along with Vivek, Vairagya. These two are in the diffused state in the beginning. If it is all perfectly clear, then you are enlightened. Shama is very closely related to Viveka. It's just like when you bring a lamp, first comes its luminosity. So it's a luminosity of Viveka. That is, mind is serene. Rama was told he was going to be sent to the forest. Everybody became agitated when that situation occurred. Lakshmana was the height of his temper. All the subjects were agitated. And King Dasharatha was about to have a heart attack. And when Rama was told, he doesn't look into his mind. He was not touched by his ego. Simply look through his intellect, the clear glass of intellect. He says, there is advantage everywhere. If he became a king, I could have ruled well. But now I have better advantage. I don't have all the responsibility of politics. I will be going there in the forest, best of sages, and I will be exploring the scriptures, having highest satsanga. And satsanga is a greater attainment than all the kingdoms put together. Tat swarg apavarg sukh dharye tula ika ang. Ramayana says, if you were to put all the joys of swarga and apavarga, means all higher lokas, all the pleasures, all the glories put together on one side of a weighing scale, and on the other side put few moments of satsanga, that outweighs all the grandeur you could collect from all the lokas. This needs to be understood deeply. Then you can value satsanga more properly. So Rama remained serene. Prasannatam yana gatabhishekata. His serenity was not disturbed when he was told he was going to be a king, a great king, and was not disturbed when he was told he was going to be sent to forest. That's called serenity. No matter what happens, your mind, your intellect has come to the grip of truth, reality. Reality is not at stake. And that reality, the non-dual self you are. And if you have not realized it, that is the goal for which you exist. Therefore, even though your ego may not understand it, a situation that has developed, which cannot be altered by ordinary effort, has a divine purpose. Most of your life, you are in the hands of God. Beginning with, you came into the world, tumbling down in a very subtle way. You didn't have the control over the whole process. In your childhood, so many years of your childhood, you are not yourself. Even when you are yourself, you're not yourself all through the day. Half of your life goes in sleep. Of the other half, 50% of the other half goes wanderings of the mind. Out of that, a little portion goes in creating karmas. So, shama, when the mind detaches itself, let's see, virajya vishaya vrata dosha drishtya muhurmuhu swalakshye niyatavastha manasah shama uchyate. When the mind detaches itself from the multiplicity of Vishayas, sense objects, by constantly observing their defects and consequently rests steadfastly on the goal, Brahman, then one has developed shama or serenity. When serenity is there, your mind is focused on the goal, undistracted by the world. If your reasoning, your intellect has not reached that state of spiritual maturity, then you are constantly drawn to the world of multiplicity. This is a terrible calamity, which has positive aspect and negative aspect. World of multiplicity implies people are never settled. The always mind says, I have been here locked up for such a long time, I have no vacation. It's a miserable thing. I must go to change the air and change the circumstances, meet new people, meet new friends, learn more things, don't be a little limited in knowledge. All that the mind's arguments. From practical point of view, there's nothing wrong in it. But from obsession point of view, mind becomes obsessed. Say, for example, you went out, have a nice trip somewhere and got a lot of thrill, and got a lot of pictures at least to go on showing to people. And afterwards again, after a few months, each time you have little dissatisfaction with the situation where you are in. Your mind says, I must change this whole thing. Go somewhere. This acts like an ordinary healthy medicine for masses. But spiritual aspirants are not dealing with ordinary situation. Your mind is directed to liberation. Therefore, you have to understand that no matter where you go, your mind is entertained by creating illusion. Same world is there. Look at, For example, go out in the evening, be by the ocean, see the wondrous sunset. But people who have determined in their mind that they have to go to, they are going to Puerto Rico, they are going to Switzerland, already imagine how wonderful things will be there. Now, they may be by the ocean side, they'll close up all their windows to the ocean. Shut out all the beauty of the sky. Because that doesn't matter. The mind has already settled, finding joy and beauty elsewhere. That means you are entertaining illusion. As long as you keep illusion highlighted in your mind, life is wonderful. And it is in the through deluded mind you feel you have been enriched. You have gained so much. But that is not really so. A lifestyle that allows you to develop a stability. That stability becomes the foundation of your internal growth. But if your style is constant slipperiness, moving around, then you do not advance. Internal movement stops. Shallow level continues. But when you have a stability, you are digging deeper and deeper. And you are not deluded. Each time the mind says, are you cooked up in one place? You are not deluded, because you are exploring amazing dimensions of your soul. A lifestyle where you can day by day practice japa, day by day watch your mind relax, day by day explore who am I, develop taste for bhakti, devotion to God. And evolve a lifestyle that is rhythmic. Rhythmic means you have time to eat, time to have relaxation, time for exercise. All things needed are being practiced day by day. Even though may not be in perfect order, but you are doing it day by day. Take a trip, the whole thing changes. Now you are dependent on situations, circumstances. You are dependent on the plane. Will it arrive in the right time? You are dependent also upon someone who gets into the plane with his hand in the pocket, as if he has a gun in it. There's always terror around. I'm not discouraging you from trips. I'm just dramatizing. Only with greater maturity you can wander around with a purpose, with a project, and not be internally hollowed. If you don't have that type of status, changing your pattern every now and then is just like you are beginning the same thing again and again. And you are unable to discover your spiritual strength. Also, limitations are everywhere. The illusion that somewhere things will be so perfect. Go to a place where people never know your early weaknesses. But someday someone begins to spill out. You find friends, foes, people who begin to hate you for no reason, people who begin to very attached to you also, all types. And that happen from no matter where you go. Your karmas follow you like a shadow. Sometimes animals try to run away from their shadow. They can't do that. The shadow follows them. So, when you understand these points, do not let your mind be distracted. Also, mind becomes distracted by the idea that there are so many sources of acquiring knowledge, so many ashrams, so many teachers, so many schools of philosophy. And you explore through the computer, and computer is not a guru, it tells you so many possibilities. You set up chit-chatting with countless organizations. Wondrous words flow on your screen. You've never heard like this. But what are you gaining by it? You're not making any serious study. You're not exploring within yourself. You're not practicing meditation. You have to understand where lies your real progress. That's what Shankaracharya says, that moving the mind, detaching the mind from multiplicity of objects by constantly observing their defects and thereby allowing the mind to settle on Brahman. If you have that quality, you are developing Shama, serenity. Serenity is a mighty quality. When a lake is serene, it allows the entire sky to enter into it. Think of another illustration, a chariot. The driver of the chariot, intellect is the driver. Imagine a driver that is drunk. Yoga Vasishta paints a very negative picture. A driver who is drunk, is bitten by a scorpion, and he has many other problems. On the other hand, think of a driver that knows where he has to go, very healthy and expert. Then only your personality chariot will be put to best use. Your personality is a chariot, your senses are the horses, mind is the reins, controlling the ropes, controlling the horses. And intellect is the one which manipulates the ropes. But intellect has to be free of intoxication, has to be more and more enlightened. So at the level of the intellect, serenity, if you have that serenity, your intellect is in a healthy state to control your body, your chariot personality. When it says by observing their defects, your intellect very quickly understands the defects that develop by distraction, and therefore becomes focused on the goal, no matter how things are in the world. Being serene is under your control. And by being serene, you can skip over, tide over, transcend, manipulate. You are in a better control over all things. But if you are not serene, then you have a lot of excitement. Every horse wants to take over the whole chariot. Lot of activity. But you are not going to accumulate any one of those great wealth of Sat Sampat that we are going to describe. So much about Shama. Next of the qualities is Dhamma. Dhamma is control of mind and senses. Vishayebhya paravartya sthapanam swagolake ubhayesham indriyanam sadamaha parkirtitah vahayanalambanam vritti esho paratiruttama. Restraining both types of indriyas. Indriyas are two types: Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas. Jnanendriyas are senses of perception. Your eyes, your ears, the senses of perception. But your eyes and ears are not the indriyas, they are only the instruments. Indriyas are not in your body. Indriyas are in your mind. To understand this better, think of your dream. In your dream, you don't carry your glasses. In your dream, you have all your senses operating. But your physical organs, they are all detached. They are all on the bed. You are sleeping. In your dream, you may be doing things with your hands. You are boxing some people, maybe fighting also, kicking people, all types of things people do. So those karmendriyas are operating in your dream. They are different from your physical organs. So karmendriyas and jnanendriyas, they are tentacles of the mind. It's also described like a turtle, the mind like a turtle. These indriyas stretch out from the turtle like different feet. And mind has the capacity to withdraw them. As long as your mind is there with vasanas, The indriyas are always there. Dhamma means ability to control the indriyas from their very source. The source is in your subtle body. As your intellect begins to control your personality, it exercises its influence on the mind, and thereby its influence is transmitted towards the senses, organs of action. So therefore, if in intellect level, if you are firm, you will not lose your temper, no matter what situation. Because intellect immediately looks at the mind. The mind is already ready to get the senses out and start doing something. But intellect looks at it, mind gets paralyzed. All the horses, the senses, they get paralyzed, they don't know what to do. In a moment, there comes an ability to suspend mind and sense functions. It's called Dhamma, self-control. That is not an easy attainment, though everyone has some degrees. And when you have it, you are very proud of yourself. But the mass level, the idea of developing that doesn't seem to be attractive. Someone is shouting at you angry words, and you are controlling the senses. To the masses it seems impractical, cowardice, but that is not so. You need to go on understanding how it is possible to control the senses from their very root. It will require change in the vasanas. Your vasanas have to become, subtle desires have to become more positive. The mind must feel a sense of joy in being in coordination with the intellect. Ego should become little more sattvic, so it doesn't constantly bother the mind. Rather makes the mind, encourages the mind to move in a righteous way. So in Ramayana also read, every now and then Rama asserts, seems very egotistic. And the clan of Raghu, words that are given will never be taken back. You will risk the life, but never the words. Because ego in Rama was so divine. So even when you develop pride, you are developing pride in a positive way, in a sattvic way. Coming back to in a very simple way, Shama is controlling your thoughts at a higher level. Dhamma is controlling your senses. Senses include organs of action. And the third quality is called uparati. The best type of uparati is to keep the function of the mind unaffected by the external objects. try to understand the point. Mind is led by vasanas. When the subtle desires are there in the unconscious, mind is influenced constantly by objects of the world. If vasanas are not there, objects will be like clouds. You look at the clouds, you can appreciate them, but if they fade away, you are not. Some people start crying also, but that's too much. You are detached. But if vasanas play their part, you move in the world and every moment you are affected. Affected by things around you, affected by people around you. And therefore deep down there develops an illusion. How can I make myself fortunate, happy? What type of karma should I do in order to secure a fortunate state? Another way, you are deluded by pravritti. Pravritti means the illusion of gaining satisfaction, gaining fulfillment by acquiring objects in the world of time and space. That's the predicament of all the masses. You always think of attaining something, and on the basis of what has happened during your life, either you feel very happy about it or feel miserable. And if you know more of subtler points of incarnations, then you are also worried about what your future embodiment may be. And you are satisfied if some astrologer tells you that it's going to be wondrous. Or somehow someone tells you, or some insight develops that your future embodiment is going to be much better. Things that you never had, now you will have all of it. What I'm trying to tell you, all this is for fools. Because all your attainments in this world are conditioned by time. Anything that is conditioned by time is transient. Don't seek permanency in the clouds, in projections, in illusions. When that insight develops, no more of seeking permanency in the world of vrittis, thought waves, then you have developed uparati. You have broken the bow of Shiva. Rama in you has wedded Sita, pure intellect. So I have described Shama, serenity; Dhamma, controlling the senses; Uparati, developing distaste for all worldly attainments, all fruits of karmas; Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilapa rahitam satitiksha nigadyate. Coming to titiksha, endurance, the ability to endure all afflictions, troubles, any negative situations, criticisms, that ability to endure, that's called titiksha. but how to endure without struggling for redressing them, and at the same time staying without cares and laments. That's called titiksha. Try to understand. Sometimes if you follow literally, you simply remain confused. The mosquito is biting you, and it says you should simply endure it without redressing it. That would be a wrong interpretation. Important point. You must always work for promoting good health, preventing things that are harmful for you, any situation that is creating distraction, wrong association, try to move away from it, try to remedy it. If you are suffering from cold or any type of disease, remedy it. But when it says without struggling for redressing them, it implies, don't say to your mind that now no more of puja, no more of worship, no more of meditation until I get rid of this. Then you have highlighted the trouble. It was just a little mosquito. Now you have made it a big bumblebee. But bring to your mind a spirit of surrender to God, an insight that God is testing you by creating this. But you don't become a God to start testing yourself by putting yourself in a terrible situation. There will be always situations that will be challenging. Without it, you can't live. Dealing with them to the best of your practical ability and insight, that's normal. If fly is coming towards your eye, you close your eyes. That's normal. The fly says, shouldn't you have titiksha? Let me come into your So don't practice foolish titiksha, but doing the best you can. And if things cannot be altered by you, gaining an insight, there is a divine purpose behind it. So don't develop the idea that let me redress it, then I come back to my God. But it's God Himself has sent you this problem. Now you have to come closer to Him to get out of it. So adversity and challenging situation should not put you away from your spiritual sadhana. Your sadhana should become more intensified. You should come closer to God. Do not develop the idea, if I didn't have these, I would be a great sadhaka. I would have attained nirvikalpa samadhi by this time. And not to develop an idea that if I don't attain it in 6 months, I'm going to get out of this sadhana. Endurance, unending endurance. And with that, you move on. Endurance to such an extent that things that first bothered you, few little words, later even most sharp words and most difficult criticisms fall on your ears like soft petals. Because you are not going to be evaluated by the masses, liberation is your attainment. And again, to understand, those who criticize you, what is the source of their energy? What moves their tongues? The same source that is within you, sustaining you, is using the tongue of others to strengthen you. The more you enter into this type of understanding, titiksha becomes your backbone. Not backbone, the very bone. That's why the Purana illustrates this. It is a terrible demon. Couldn't be killed by Indra's thunderbolt. When he comes to Dadhichi, great Brahmarshi, as if you were to give me your bones, I will be able to destroy the demon. He said, very well, take my bones. Tiksha is that type of spirit which, like spirit of Dadhichi, to generate in yourself strength that is in your very bones as a result of titiksha. Titiksha is the most bone enriching practice. This I conclude. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.